We are here this evening to announce arrest and charges in two cases. The first case, a male juvenile age 16, is being charged with one count of first-degree murder in the shooting death of seven-year-old on October 26th, 2022, in the 2600 block of West Potomac in the 14th District. As you recall, this shooting involved seven-year-old in his home, in the bathroom, washing his hands, which should be one of the most safest places your child should be. And a bullet comes through the window and striking the seven-year-old, and he is deceased. So the juvenile, the 16-year-old, is being charged with first-degree murder. He was arrested on yesterday, November 21st, 2022. We are also announcing the apprehension and arrest pending charges for first-degree murder against Rodney, spelled R-O-D-N-E-E, Miller, age 26. Miller is a twice convicted felon, and he was arrested on yesterday for first-degree murder of a 30-year-old man in the 600 block of West Harrison Street. That's in the 1st District. This was the murder that happened right outside the Greyhound Bus station that many of you have reported, that occurred on October 24th, 2022. Miller is currently arrested in Alabama, awaiting extradition to Chicago, pending charges for first-degree murder. Our hopes that these arrests sends a very strong message that no one can hide from justice. We will find you. I also hope that these arrests and these charges bring some small measure of closure to the grieving families. I want to thank the officers involved and the very tireless work of our detectives to bring justice to these families and these communities. And with that, I'll take a few questions.
Chief, can you talk more about the 16-year-old, the circumstances? Is this person a family member of the young man who was killed? And also, is there any motive for Rodney Miller?
Not a family member, but we'll give a little bit more detail from Chief of Detectives Brendan Denahan. This was what we believe some kind of conflict that happened outside the house, but Brendan will go into a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Superintendent. So yeah, for the murder of the 7-year-old, it was a group-on-group violence. So there was a group that was in the alley behind the residence where the 7-year-old, as the Super mentioned, was just washing his hands, and a separate group approached from the alley. They were targeting this group that was in a car in the alley. They shoot at that group. Obviously, the bullet misses that group. Nobody struck in that group, and the bullet goes through the window, striking the 7-year-old. So the group that came through the gangway, one 16-year-old, has been charged at this time. So we have a little more work to do on this case. There's 3 people that came through the gangway, 2 adult offenders and 1 juvenile, and we have those other 2 adult offenders in custody, and we're currently working very closely with the state's attorney's office, and it's an ongoing investigation. We do not believe the juvenile fired the handgun, but the juvenile was in possession of the handgun and passed it to one of these other adult offenders who fired it. And as I mentioned, they're in custody. We're working really closely with the state's attorney's office on those offenders as well. The juvenile was 15 years old at the time of the incident, so for the juvenile state law, he'll be going to juvenile court.
Hi, Superintendent Casey Cronus with Fox 32. As we head into Thanksgiving, Christmas, kids being home from school, can you speak to just keeping kids safe so we can prevent other acts of violence like this? And for my second question, if you have any update on the woman who was struck by a vehicle on Pulaski last night?
Sure, I'll start with keeping our young people safe. I think the message we really want to send is a strong one in this regard. arresting these people for these heinous crimes is the primary message we want to send, that this should be preventative, because you will be brought to justice. You won't get away with these heinous crimes of violence. These are first-degree murder charges. We really want to send this message to violent offenders that Chicago Police Department is dedicated and committed to bringing you to justice. That's number one from a prevention standpoint. Number two, we really want to encourage our young people who may or may not be involved in gun violence to put the guns down. That having a gun does not make you safer. Actually, possession of a gun is one of the primary indicators that either you will be a victim of gun violence or that you will be using that gun in ways that will cause great trauma and harm. And so we want to discourage young people from being involved in any kind of gun play. That having a gun, possessing a gun, does not make you safer. I think there's a perception that it does to defend yourself, but it actually does not make you safer. And lastly, we want to send to parents especially to, obviously there's many activities across this city, particularly during the holidays, that your young people can be involved in, that's very productive, that's safe. So we want to encourage parents to participate in those events across the city that are, safe spaces for young people to spend their time during this break in school. Any other questions?
2-year-old. Do you have any update on that 42-year-old who was hit in that hit and run on Pulaski?
It's an ongoing investigation. We currently don't have an update. As soon as we do, we'll share it with all of you.
Superintendent Liz Nagy with ABC7. Have you or anybody with the police department reached out to the family of that 7-year-old boy to let them know that somebody's in custody, and anything
Yes.
you can tell us about that communication?
Yes, we always make that contact, and we have in this case. Brendan, I don't know if you want to share any of that. I think that's a little bit of privacy issue, but we have shared that offender is in custody.
And because did you say that you have 2 other people in custody?
2 adults in custody, ongoing work with the state's attorney on bringing charges, but we do have 2 other people in custody. There are adults.
Is it possible that they will also be charged with first-degree murder?
We have work to do, but that's what we're hoping.
And can you provide any sort of detail about this, the Greyhound situation, how this person was able to get to Alabama? Was that a targeted shooting? Anything you can tell us
I
about
should
that
turn it over to
investigation?
Brendan to share a little bit about that. Not a lot, but a little bit.
Sure. So the incident, it was a targeted shooting, not like a pre-planned, but this individual came in from a Greyhound. He saw this other individual who he knew to be a rival gang member, so he took the opportunity at that time to shoot him, and then he fled. And so the detectives, once again, I want to thank the detectives. They did remarkable work on both cases, but they were able to get license plates, which led to us identifying the offender. How he got to Alabama, I don't have that information, but we worked with our FBI counterparts, and we're extremely grateful for them. They're the ones who apprehended him and executed the arrest warrant and placed him in custody in Alabama today.
And then any update on the Garfield Park Halloween shooting?
You're not going to give up the mic, are you? Okay, I'm sorry.
Called that?
Go ahead, yes.
Any update on
Last question from
the
you, then we'll
Garfield,
share
the
it, okay?
Garfield Park Halloween shooting?
Okay, I don't know if we have an update for that. We'll get with you offline.
Okay.
Thanks. Anybody else? Thank you all very much. Really appreciate it.